Okay, so the current pandemic is clearly having a massive impact on, I guess, all aspects of life. But today, I mean, maybe we can concentrate on what you're seeing in terms of how it's affecting your customers' attitudes towards storage technology at the moment.
Yeah, great question, and thank you for having me. I think number one is that we stop thinking about COVID and its implication as a temporary thing. We're hoping for kind of a 3-4 months and back to normal. Well, that's gone. And with that realization, I think it forced us to do two things, because nobody knows how long this will take and nobody knows what are going to be the entire set of impacts this will have on our lives and our businesses. We want to avoid long-term commitments because we don't know where the economy is headed. And most customers are back to focusing on cost. They basically want to know, can I minimize my costs? And they're looking at two main questions. Can I pay less in total, but also can I pay later? Can I postpone payments to a later point in time where maybe I have better visibility?
Okay, and in terms of Infinidat itself, your technology and I think your subscription model, I'm guessing that lends itself quite nicely to those current sort of pain points or issues that customers are facing.
Yeah, I think that in a world that's filled with uncertainty, whether you look at the health side or specifically for the UK citizens, of course, Brexit is another layer of uncertainty. Subscription models allow them to postpone payments. However, they also mean that you're going to see, for example, higher payments. So if you're trying to minimize your overall payments, paying in monthly installments usually end up costing you more, just like leasing a car usually is more expensive than owning that car. However, that's what we come with what we call elastic pricing. And elastic pricing is our innovative model allowing you to, first of all, merge CapEx and OpEx in whatever ratio you feel like it, and also change your mind. So if you started with OpEx because you wanted more control over time, and then you actually prefer to change to a more cost-efficient model, and you want to shift to CapEx, you can actually change your mind a month or a year or at every point of the road along the product's life cycle. So that really solves the problem of how do you plan from the uncertain. The answer is don't plan more than a month or two ahead. Just buy what you need right now. And elastic pricing, the other side of that is that we enable you to have more capacity than you paid for. So the problem with only buying what you have is that you lose the business agility. And when we put more capacity than you need on the ground, that means you can instantly use it and gain agility as well as postponing cost. So you get the best of both worlds. You kind of avoid the trade-off of prepaying versus agility. And in a way, we're bringing the consumption model of the public cloud, innovations from companies like Amazon and Google, etc., into your private cloud, because now you have that level of instant growth and that ability to only pay when you need to actually use something.
And I guess, I mean, it's a bit difficult to predict anything at the moment, but in terms of the gradual move from CapEx to OpEx, and also this, as you say, the subscription sort of pay as you go or pay as you grow, do you think, I mean, clearly I say it's finding a sort of sweet spot at the moment, but do you think sort of longer term it's got sort of mileage anyway, as people sort of less likely to make huge, great, capital investments, but want a sort of fixed monthly fee, etc.?
I semi-agree with you. I think there is an artifact here that we're looking at, and that is the transition towards OpEx. That's not something that customers prefer to do. That's something they're doing because they have no other way for most vendors to postpone payment. So if you talk to your private cloud vendors today and you say, I want to pay over time, they will say, sure, no problem, that's OpEx. And that's a problem. Customers do not prefer CapEx. And the way I know this is, customers do not prefer OpEx. The way I know this is that we actually allow customers to pay, that's elastic pricing, to pay in installments using either CapEx or OpEx, and nearly all of them choose CapEx. So when you remove the trade-off where paying as you grow means OpEx, and you allow them to pay as they grow and choose which one they choose, they usually choose CapEx. The exception is when the company makes their money through kind of OpEx engagements with their customers, in which case they want to align their revenue stream with their expenses. So that's when they would like to use OpEx. But the problem is that almost all vendors in the private cloud today tightly couple paying as you grow with OpEx models. And that's why we're seeing this weird artifact where customers suddenly, after dozens of years of preferring to pay with CapEx, seem to appear as if they prefer to pay with OpEx.
Okay, and in terms of, I guess one of the other things that intrigues me, I've been in the storage industry a long time, same as yourself, and traditionally companies like yourself, Agile, disruptive, you maybe struggle a bit to gain traction against, the traditional people, etc. I mean, do you think that trend is going to gradually change, or is already changing as companies are looking for more sort of innovative solutions, I guess, in the current climate and further ahead?
Very good question, because it's funny, but IT organizations, the organizations in charge of technologies, sometimes tend to kind of keep doing what they used to do and not change. And in many ways, the drive for change right now is not the innovative technology itself. It's the competition that IT faces from the public clouds. Historically, if somebody went to IT and said, oh, there's my dog. If somebody said to IT, I want to do something, and IT said that will be £500,000, nobody could argue with that statement. Now they go to their public cloud providers and check how much that will cost. And if that's less, well, I'm probably going to put that application in the public cloud. Usually it ends up being more because private clouds tend to be cheaper. So that drove IT to look at innovative solutions that will break their old consumption models, that will introduce agility to compete with the public cloud. And you look at companies like, taking a UK example, Pulsent, or other examples from companies like Core Data Cloud. They need ways to offer an alternative to the public cloud, and that's what they get from us. They only pay for what they need, and as a result, they had to switch their storage vendors to be able to do that without spending so much. And the way to make it happen, the best analogy I can give you is an insurance analogy. So think about your car insurance, right? If you yourself had to put aside money in case you lost your car, you created damages for somebody else, you'd have to put aside a lot of money. What insurance companies do is they aggregate a lot of small risks, and those risks tend to kind of even out each other. And we do the same thing for infrastructure planning, specifically, of course, for storage. We take 100 customers and we give them a lot more capacity than they paid for. Now, true, there's going to be one or two of them that may not grow. But because 98 of them are going to grow, we can actually afford to give them a lot more capacity than they need. We take the risk away, and they can, as a result, grow and provide that cloud level of agility to their end users, their business units, who now need to compete in a much more aggressive market. And that makes them more successful. And that's why they're switching over. That's why IT stopped doing what they used to do and evaluate more innovative technologies, because they have to be better aligned with their business units.
Just a follow up on that. I mean, are you finding different procurement processes? Because again, there's some suggestion that once upon a time, obviously the storage folks bought the storage, installed it, etc. But now there's the suggestion that other business departments, fire up virtual machines, whatever it is, to acquire their own resources. What are you just finding in terms of that? Is it changing?
I think the more businesses look at automation, and automation is a key component in agility, because even if you have everything on the ground, if you're still doing things manually, it will take you time. Automation is another part of being more agile. So when you want to automate, you have to work across all of your teams. So you have to break those old silos of storage people, networking people, virtualization people. You have to collaborate to truly automate a single business process. There's going to be 6-7 teams involved. So they have to think about things together. You have to build a storage that serves your virtualization needs better, your Oracle or SQL database needs. So there's a lot more integration now between the teams when they need to be successful. And a big component in success is automation. And that's why I think they're much more collaborative nowadays than they used to be 5 years ago. And that, of course, affects procurement as well.
And just sort of looking ahead to the future in terms of Infinidat, are you able, clearly you're not going to give away any sort of huge, great competitive secrets, but in terms of what's on the roadmap, whether technology-wise, business model-wise, etc., can you give us any sort of insights into that?
We are heavily invested in our growth now that we see that the market really understands that it's no longer about the brand, it's about the agility and what the technology enables the business to do. So we're hiring a lot of people, and a lot of these people are involved in our next disruption. And of course, I'm not going to tell you what it is. What I can tell you is that we're using the recent funding we got from our investors, which we really thank for their trust, to really build the next level of innovation. And our focus remains the same. It's about how do you run your private cloud in a cost-efficient, highly automated way and drive your business a lot faster as a result. So we're making the next big leap there, but it's going to be a while before we announce that. There's a lot of great engineering happening behind the scenes. I think our existing customers will see that we stay true to our original message as we finally release what we're working on.
Okay, and maybe just before we finish, I mean, any final thoughts, folks, as I say, wrestling with storage, they've maybe got some, temporary solutions when the pandemic first hit, what do we do? And now they're looking, more strategic long-term. Any sort of one or two bits of advice for those people?
I think looking at the bigger picture for a second, there's a long, I think very sad list of about 26 retailers that have filed for bankruptcy in the US. And I'm mentioning retail just because that's one of the sectors that got hit really hard. But if you look at those 26 retailers, the one thing they all have in common and what we can learn from their experience is that all of them had a great brick and mortar shop experience, but very small, insignificant digital experience. And once you had to close down those shops, of course, they were the ones hit the hardest. At the same time, we all need to dress up, even if it's only for a Zoom virtual meeting. So we still need clothes for ourselves. And if you have kids, they seem to grow out of them in a second. So people are still buying clothes. They're just not buying them for those 26 retailers. They moved elsewhere. So digital transformation is the key to success right now. More and more transactions will happen digitally, and that means a lot more data. So focusing on innovative data infrastructure is key. However, I think because it's going to get worse before it gets better in terms of the crisis, IT's job is to really go back to what IT was designed to do. Enable business innovation. That's what IT has been doing for 30 years. And we have to go back to basic. Minimize your cost, maximize the business impact. It's not about the shiniest brand. It's not about having the technology with the highest number of buzzwords. It's truly about aligning back to the business. And in that era of unpredictability, I think we've seen tremendous growth in businesses that were ready for the unpredictable, that had the right consumption model already in place. And I mean, we've seen accelerated growth, and a lot of that came from people that already had capacity on the ground and were just in urgent need of growing that because of digital transactions. So we really have to build new tools in our tool belt, the IT tool belt, that are allowing us to grow whenever we need, even if we cannot reach the data center. And that's going to be a key component to success.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today, and I really appreciate you sharing those insights with us, Eran. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you for having me, and stay safe.